Good morning, Texoma. I'm Ashley Fitzwater. We're wrapping up Child Abuse Awareness Month with an inside look at Patsy's House Advocacy Center and taking a look at the true heroes that give children in Texoma a voice. Joining me now to talk about just that is Carrie Goins. She is the Executive Director at Patsy's House. And Carrie, thank you so much for taking time to be here today and really sharing an inside look. Of course, it's April, Child Abuse Awareness Month, like we mentioned. So let's jump right into this and really maybe explain, if people are new to the community or just really aren't sure what Patsy's House is and what you do for the community.
Well, Patsy's House is a children's advocacy center. They're one of 65 centers across the state of Texas. We're accredited through both the National Children's Alliance and the Children's Advocacy Centers of Texas. When I try to explain what we do, it's pretty complicated, but I like to say that we're both a place and a process. We're a safe place for children to come and begin their path and their journey to healing. But we're also a process, and that process brings together law enforcement, child protective services, prosecution, therapists, doctors and nurses, social workers, forensic interviewers, all under one roof to help best serve these children.
And that's pretty unheard of. I mean, that's not really common, right?
We're very fortunate in this community that we are able to house law enforcement and CPS under one roof. A lot of communities don't have that opportunity, and it can really make all the difference down the road with cases.
And I know you actually have an example that we're going to hear from law enforcement and the district attorney just a little bit later, but can you kind of share an example or maybe a case that's happened where if they weren't all housed under one roof, how maybe it would have been a different outcome?
Yes, this case was actually prosecuted in Wichita County a year and a half ago or so. This particular child had been beaten really badly, and she had gone and done her SANE exam and then come straight to Patsy's House for a forensic interview. And during the forensic interview, she wasn't able to describe where it occurred, and that was a big important piece. But after the fact, the girl came up to the forensic interviewer before she left the building and told her, she said, you know, I think maybe if I drove around, I might be able to help lead them there. And we weren't sure what jurisdiction it was going to be at that point, but two of the detectives in the building went and took the girl and drove out, and they were able to find the location, and the district attorney was able to use some of that physical evidence, the corroborating evidence, to help build a case and get a good prosecution.
And a good chance that evidence might not have been there if it wouldn't have been for that moment, correct?
Absolutely. It's because we're all housed together, we work so closely together. And you know, these cases are very difficult on all of us because it's very difficult and very wearing. But as we're all housed together, we know the struggles that we're each going through, and we truly become a team. And it's because that we're a team that I think we've had the longevity with some of our partners and are really able to see our peace and work toward the end goal.
So it makes all the hard things that you see and have to hear,
it makes it easier.
Worth it at the end.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I understand when a child comes, because I believe 3 to 17 years old is usually kind of the age is correct that would come through the door. So when someone comes in, what's kind of the process, if you know just a short version of the process that they would go through when they walk in Patsy's House?
Well, children come to us in one of two ways. These are through law enforcement or child protective services. They will call and set up a time for an interview with our forensic interviewer. Our forensic interviewer will meet with the child, and while that's going on, we have a social worker doing some crisis counseling with what we call the non-offending caregiver. Sometimes it's a mom, sometimes it's an aunt, sometimes it's a grandma, but it's somebody who believes in that child and is there to support them. And research tells us that the better that support person does, that the better the child does down the road. So it's real important for us to be there for her and make them understand what the next step in the process is going to be. And as soon as the forensic interview is over, we get that child started in counseling. It's a long road, but really once they start that disclosure and tell what happened, I've had a mom come back and tell me, you know, our case didn't go the way we wanted, but my child knows that if she feels like something wrong is happening, she can come and tell me, and then it'll stop. And it's made all the difference in her life because she has known that. So we're really just working to do what we can to help them start on that journey.
Sure, absolutely. And anything, if for some reason they don't have family or you know, they don't have a place to go, do you help place them after?
That's CPS will do that piece. I mean, that's the work.
That's their part of this.
That's their piece of the puzzle. It's really a big puzzle, and you know, it all works because we all trust each other to do our pieces of the puzzle.
Absolutely. Now, I know a lot of this is donations that kind of make this all come together. Can you tell us just really quickly how it is operated and funded?
We are a nonprofit agency, and we do get some government funding, but unfortunately that funding is shrinking every year. So we're having to rely more and more on community support. And I've had a mom tell me, you know, we don't want to come to Patsy's house, but we want to know that there's one there. We have an open house tomorrow, and we're real excited about that. It's from 5 to 8, and we're generally a locked facility, but from 5 to 8 that day we'll be open, and it'll be your opportunity for you to meet some real life superheroes. The people in our community, they're fighting for our children every day. And so we hope everybody can come out. And we're also wrapping up Child Abuse Awareness Month. If you don't know, we've had pinwheels out at Patterson Honda all month long. And we put out 1,302, and each one represents a case of child abuse in Wichita County. So our goal is to remove all of the pinwheels by the end of the month, and that's $20 a piece.
Now, is that number, what is that number from?
It's from CPS statistics. It's actually every report of child abuse in Wichita County.
Is that like ever, or within the past?
For the year.
For the past year. Goodness, that's such a high number. So it's really showing that this is an important thing, and Patsy's House, of course, plays such an important role in really making this all come together so justice and the children's voices are definitely heard. So we're going to hear much more on how the forensic interviewer plays a big role, and that's going to be coming up after the break, so stay with us. Much more on Inside Look at Patsy's House after this. Welcome back to Inside Texoma. Once again, we are talking with Patsy's House today. Joining me now is Shannon May. She works at Patsy's House and a forensic interviewer at Patsy's House. So thank you so much for taking time to be here today. And you know, Shannon, your job, I understand, is just crucial really in what Patsy's House does. And as a forensic interviewer, I understand you're the one that's talking with these children and having them open up. So, you know, I just really want to jump right into what it is that you do, and I understand it starts right when they walk in the door, basically, right?
It does. Right when they come in the door, I really want to begin empowering the children when they come in the door, so I'll often introduce myself to the child first and then ask them to introduce who came with them today, so that automatically I'm saying your words are important and your story is important today. I do a brief introduction, and then I meet briefly with the parent just because I'm about to take their child down a long hall and with a private conversation with them. And so I have a really short amount of time to build some rapport with the children, and then I'm really going to ask them to tell me the most degrading, horrific thing that's ever happened to them, and to try to do it in the most detailed way that I can. And my job is to make sure that I'm not being therapeutic. I'm not in there to sway them in any direction. It's a really neutral, fact-finding scenario, and so, which is, I think, the hardest part of my job. Sometimes people think it's what I hear, but for me, it's really what I'm not allowed to say whenever I talk to children. And so while I'm doing that, law enforcement and Child Protective Services, whoever's involved in the case, are viewing that live. We're recording it, and it really becomes the center point for these investigations for children. And so the officers will direct me with some questions to ask, and so I'm in that room trying to think like a prosecutor who's going to have to defend the case, and a defense attorney who's going to try to not defend the case. Yeah. And the investigator who's behind the wall that's going to have to go out and figure out what charge, and then the 6-year-old little boy all at the same time. So
that is a lot. That seems like a lot of responsibility and awfully overwhelming. I mean, if you're hearing something, you want to comfort them or say it's okay. Those are just things you can't do, though, right?
No. There's times when I can say, I'm sorry that you're crying. I can't even really put words to what they're feeling either. I can't say, I'm sorry that hurt you, or I'm sorry. I just have to say, I'm sorry you're crying, or those kind of things. Yeah, just to make it, to really not taint it for the investigation.
I know that's got to be hard for you, but at the same time, your job, such an important one into giving these children a voice, though, too, correct? So how is it whenever, you know, you're able to hear, maybe it's the end of a case, and I don't know if you've been able to see a case complete yet, you know, where your what happened and maybe even your testimony, helped to bring justice for that child. So how is that, although it can be hard then, is it rewarding in the end?
It is. I think sometimes when we speak in the community, I can feel people looking at me almost with a little bit of disgust, like, how do you do that for your job? How do you listen to that all day long? But I have to keep in mind what my job is and do the best and let the team members do their job. Mm-hmm. So, and we work with a great team in Wichita County, from the investigators to the district attorney's office. I'm sure you've seen on the news this year, we've had some great outcomes, and that also includes the jury, the community of Wichita Falls, mm-hmm. that is really championing children and fighting crimes against children. For me personally, I'm not trying to get an outcry or I am exactly what you said, trying to help the children put words mm-hmm. to what's happened to them. Children grow up playing house and doctor, and they play like they're firemen. They don't have a context for sexual abuse, mm-hmm. and so they don't have words for that. And so I want to ask them questions in such a way that they can put words to what happened. But the main component for me is to leave them with their dignity. And I know when that happens, sometimes I get to the end of a forensic interview and I always give them a chance to ask me some questions. And then I hold my breath because I'm not sure what's going to come out of their little mouths. But whenever I ask them, do you have any questions for me? And they do, and they say, when do I get to come back and talk to you again? Then I'm like, okay, we've done it. They don't, and really the forensic interview is a child-friendly environment. It doesn't seem like an interrogation. It really is just a chance. I mean, kids are kids in any environment, so there's really funny things that come out of forensic interviews too. And sometimes I need to be a professional in there, but sometimes we're both cracking up because kids are just kids and they're funny. And so it's very rewarding. It's a job that I do because I can. Mm-hmm. I think there's lots of people, they tell me, I couldn't do that mm-hmm. job. And so I do it because I can do it. Yeah. And
well, it's a calling and it's a needed one. So, mm-hmm. It's something, I guess, that, it's a blessing for someone who's mm-hmm. able to do that and mm-hmm. be able to be that voice for those children. Now, there's a lot of training, I understand, and believe it or not, forensic interviewers, it's not like there's just an overabundance even mm-hmm. in this area. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we are governed by the Children's Advocacy Center of Texas, so someone could not come in and just become trained, be a rogue forensic interviewer. I go through a 5-block training. I've actually been through it a couple of times. In the state of Texas, we have our own protocol that goes with the Texas laws, and so I am required to continue and keep up with that. So we kind of touch or serve about 11 different counties, some mm-hmm. of them in southern Oklahoma, because there's not you can't just go out and find another forensic interviewer like from us to close to the Dallas area from us up to Oklahoma City.
So it's something, do you have to train then in Oklahoma? I mean, do you have to receive training there too then, or
no,
it just kind of carries over?
Yeah. If there's something specific with Oklahoma law, they can tell me, but so in our community, it really is the unduplicated piece mm-hmm. of what we do. There's lots of really good social services in Wichita Falls, but as far as the service that feeds right into law enforcement and makes our streets safe and gets mm-hmm. perpetrators off the street through the law enforcement process, we're the only place to get that service.
What would you say the best part is about your job?
One, just the privilege that I have to know things about the children and to serve them on a level that I don't believe that anyone else gets to that level with them. I'm the one in the forensic interview that I can see the hives coming up their neck while they're talking to me, or that's not visible to anyone else. And so the privilege that I have to carefully go in and work with those children and just seeing their face when sometimes, if it never goes to prosecution, just the fact that the child has been able to get out this secret and this weight that they've carried their entire life, and someone believed them and didn't shame them and restored their dignity, that's the privilege that I have every day. They're heroes.
Oh, wow. Is there anything, before we go to break, that you can share with us or that you would like to tell the community about Patsy's House? I know you've been there about 2 years, mm-hmm. and, that's not when you got your start, of course, in forensic interview, but anything you can share that, you've seen that maybe we might not know from the public's view about Patsy's House and the true services that are offered?
Mm-hmm. Well, this Patsy's House, because I've worked in other children's advocacy centers, and just, you know, I'm in peer groups, and people come to our facility and I tour theirs. The community has supported us into a really good position. The unique environment that I work in at Patsy's House in Wichita is incomparable to other CACs, really. The fact that we have law enforcement are housed in our building, and child protective services as well, and our counseling is right on site, and our social services. To have all that in one place so that people don't have to be shuffled around and go to different places, and then just to really, the real live action superheroes that I work with, these officers, the people that are out there, the CPS investigators that really fight these crimes against children, they're not just my coworkers, they're my friends. We see each other every day. We go to lunch. We really stand shoulder to shoulder in this battle, and that's unique in Wichita Falls, that we're all housed in one center, and that we can support each other that way, that the community supports us to do that.
Absolutely. What a great team, all under one roof. So, well, Shannon, I really appreciate you taking time to be here today, and of course sharing your story, and appreciate what you do for the kids of our community as well. So we need to take another quick break, but much more at Patsy's House coming up after this.